So I think it's really important that we don't blame the technology for being overwhelmed. It's an inanimate object. It's a piece of glass, it's a piece of plastic. It isn't the cause. Hi, my name's Andy, and welcome to Headspace. No, not really. Actually, if you use the app, you're probably not used to seeing me because they keep me locked in a very dark studio. After 7 years, they let me out. And the more I thought about how I wanted to spend my time, the more I thought about how nice it would be to maybe go on a bit of a journey together. The techniques of meditation are just one small part of how to live a healthier and happier life. I feel I can share it in a very different way out here than I can when I'm sitting in the studio. And that's it really. So, shall we go? So I think one of probably the most common questions we get at Headspace is how to deal with technology. And I think before even jumping in to that question, it's worth just sort of stripping it back and looking at it. What is it that makes us want to sort of get away from technology? What is it that makes us feel overwhelmed by it? Is it the technology? Is it our minds? And the first thing that comes to mind is sort of where meditation has come from. And I think that's relevant in so much as that 2,500 years ago, meditation was around. It was a thing back then as well. And it was a thing because people felt anxious, people felt frustrated, people felt overwhelmed, people felt stressed out. Doesn't really sound that different from kind of life as we all know it now. I think the difference and the thing that technology, especially in kind of more recent years, has done is to sort of amplify the noise in our minds. So that's really, for me, that's a really important distinction. It's not that the thing itself is new, because we've always experienced those emotions. It's that they've been amplified thanks to technology and digital, but because of. So the next sort of, I guess, way of looking at this is, okay, well, it's fine to say that it's amplified it, but has it been the direct cause of the stress we experience? So my understanding of it is that, let's just take the phone as one example. Doesn't matter what the device is. It's an inanimate object. It's a piece of glass, it's a piece of plastic. It isn't the cause of stress. It isn't the thing that makes us feel overwhelmed. Our relationship with that thing, our reaction to the things that come through that device, that's the thing that's the cause of stress. Which means that one day we might pick it up and we might experience a sense of being overwhelmed. Another day we might not. One person does, another person might not. So I think it's really important that we don't blame the technology for being overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed is a direct result. It's our own reaction, our response to an external situation. And approaching it in that way, everything changes. And look, I'd be the first to admit it's taken me definitely a little while to work out what the best way is to relate to technology. It's not like they're teaching this in the monastery. Maybe they are now. When I went away to the monastery, there was no email, definitely no cell phones. And the only way of communicating was either to write home on the back of a postcard or to walk several miles down into the local village and to pay some money to use an old school landline, So it was a very kind of different environment. I remember getting my first phone. There's this expression, sort of early adopters. I was so late to this party. I don't think I even had my own phone until, maybe 15 years ago or something, a long time after everyone else did. And to begin with, I have to say I just wasn't really that interested in it. And then over time, as sort of the friendship group sort of built up again, and I definitely felt a bigger sort of draw towards it, maybe experienced that feeling of not wanting to be without it. And then I think as I've had to use it a lot more for my work, as email's become a part of that, as social has become a part of that, definitely it's been a journey to work out sort of what's a comfortable way of using technology. And along that way, testing it both for myself and for other people as well, there are definitely some things I've found that are helpful. I think some of them are very practical, and some of them are more sort of psychological, how we choose to approach it. From a practical point of view, I think from just a very simple kind of point of view, remember that the phone is yours to set up and to use as you would like to. Don't let anyone else kind of tell you or force you or encourage you into a way that feels uncomfortable. So for me, whenever I get a new device, I strip it back and make it as blank as it will possibly go, and then I will kind of build it up. I'll add the things that I want to add and the functionality that I would like to have that's comfortable for me. And I switch off everything else. I switch off notifications. If it's on my phone, I'm going on holiday, I switch off my email, I switch off social media. I think we sometimes forget that we're in control of that part of it. And that's actually a really important part of creating an environment where we're not overwhelmed. So setting the conditions. From a day-to-day point of view, I know a lot of people, let me put it a different way. I sit in a lot of different meetings and I hear beeps going off and bells going off and train whistles going off and all these other different kind of sounds that people choose to have on their phones. If I had those going on all day in my life, I'm not sure I would go home in a sort of a calm and relaxed manner at the end of the day. I'd really encourage you to switch off notifications, to switch off sounds. I know even at Headspace, we have a notification system that sort of encourages you just this little mindful moment to stop. And if you can have that and you can have it on silent, then great. But as much as possible, try to reduce that external noise. So by turning off all those different things. And then even from a visual point of view, look, we all have different ways of doing things. I look at some people's home pages. I feel, I don't say sick, but I feel uneasy. Just looking at it, it makes me feel stressed out. It's like 200 apps squeezed into all these different files and folders. I mean, just strip it back. Like, I'm a big believer that on that front page, one, have a wallpaper or something that's going to make you smile, that's going to make you feel happy when you look at it. And then just have as few apps as you possibly can on that home page. So rather than looking at it and seeing a notification and watching the emails kind of rack up or the Twitter notifications, whatever it might be, have those on another page so that in order to view them, in order to see them, there has to be an intention. You have to swipe across to actually get to that. If you can get to that point, then all of a sudden, picking up your phone and looking at it doesn't become stressful anymore. Having your phone in your pocket, it's not buzzing, it's not vibrating, it's not making sounds. It's not stressful anymore. You might even find that you go out with your phone and you forget to look at it. And I think for most people, that'd be quite a liberating thing, not to feel sort of stuck to the phone or owned by the phone in any way. I guess the next kind of part to look at is what is it that's even going on internally that makes us kind of want to pick up the phone the whole time. So sometimes it's not the phone that's calling us, literally and metaphorically. It's more perhaps a sense of how we're feeling, knowing that the phone is there as a distraction. So again, if I think of the monastery and training there, one of the best things about being it's one of the hardest things, but one of the best things is that there's no distraction. When you're feeling bored, you have to sit with boredom. You can't go and, there's no, like, I don't know, newspaper to pick up, there's no emails to go and look through. You just have to sit with that. And through sitting with that, you start to have a better understanding of it. And having a better understanding of it, there's a greater sense of comfort with it. So I think very often our phone, we use it as a distraction to get away from uncomfortable feelings. Perhaps we're experiencing a sense of frustration. We'll go to our phone and look for something to cheer us up or to get us away from whatever it is that's frustrating us. Frustration doesn't go away. We just temporarily put our focus in a different direction. Maybe we're, I don't know, standing in a queue or waiting for a plane or a train or a bus, and perhaps we experience some boredom. And immediately, instinctively, we reach for our phone, we pull it out and we start sort of scrolling through it. And in doing that, I think we actually miss a really important opportunity. We are constantly trying to get away from ourselves, constantly trying to get away from how we feel in a particular moment. So we're not really living in the moment. We are intentionally distracting ourselves. And if you think about what that does over time in terms of training the mind, we train ourselves to be more distracted. So as much as possible, I'd encourage you to, when you feel that impulse to reach into your pocket or bag to pull out your phone, not because you need to answer it or because you need to send something or check something, simply because there's nothing else to do. Maybe just catch yourself in that moment. Give it the space, let it go, and maybe do something else instead. Just a thought. Just try it, experiment, see how that feels. So, all that said, I do think there's maybe another layer of this feeling of being compelled to pick up the phone, which is, it's maybe newer and is definitely worth exploring. And that's this idea of either wanting to feel more connected with the world around us, or perhaps more validated somehow by the world around us. I think there's some kind of irony and tension there in the sense that in many ways we are, because of that technology, that much more connected, and yet people consistently report feeling more disconnected. So although in our minds we think we're reaching out through a digital universe to connect with those around us, actually that's a very different kind of connection than actually connecting with someone in person. But of course, circumstances, environment, our situation may mean that is our only window to connect with the world around us. And it's natural to want to kind of connect in that way. But in the same way, I always think of digital not as a separate kind of path in life. It's sort of like an extension. In the same way that I wouldn't sort of, sit at home and then think, oh, I need to see so-and-so, jump up and run down the road and go and see them, then come home, sit down, and then think, oh, I need to see so-and-so, jump up, run out. Like, we don't experience that in everyday life, so we don't have to do that on a digital level as well. So it's quite possible to have really deep, meaningful connections with people, but not in a very sort of reactive way through technology. In terms of, what social media has done for our connection, our relationship with technology, then there is definitely a tendency, I think more and more for every generation, to seek some kind of validation. And it's the validation that drives that compulsive urge to check the phone. So we go and we check. Have people liked the post? How many people have liked the post? Are people commenting on it? And we sort of get into that almost way of life where we only feel good about ourselves if other people are showing us how they feel about us. And that's really dangerous kind of territory, I would say. It's probably the thing that worries me most about technology. At one level, you can say it's quite kind of harmless. But I think for some people, that has become the way of measuring their own sort of self-esteem, if you like. And there's this, I can't quite think how to capture the essence of the word, but in the tradition in which I trained, which is sort of later on, which was Tibetan tradition, there was this phrase, sort of, they call it like Vajra pride, but it basically means sort of a quiet inner confidence. And that quiet inner confidence doesn't really, it's not changed by what's going on in the world around us. It's not influenced by how many likes we have. It's not influenced by whether someone says something nice about us or something not so nice about us. It's a contentment, an inner confidence, a quiet inner confidence that's almost unshakable. And it's unshakable because it's innate to the mind. And I feel that would be a really valuable quality for any of us to cultivate in our mind, so that we're not really driven by this urge to have others like what we do or like what we say, to validate us in any way. We're simply content to live life in a way that we feel best reflects our approach, our intention, the way that we want to live in the world, the way we want to be in the world. So as much as possible, in the same way that you're going to try and notice when you feel that kind of urge to check the phone, in the same way, when you feel that urge to check a post to see if people have liked it, how many people have liked it, commented on it, I'm not suggesting that you don't do it, but just notice the urge. Begin to become aware of the tendencies, the patterns, the habits at play, and notice how you feel. Before, is there a sense of anticipation, expectation? And then after, is there a sense of excitement? Is there a sense of sadness, disappointment? Once we start to become more aware of those patterns, then I think usually we start to change our behavior in some way. It's a little bit like, I'm not sure if it's the right analogy, but it's a bit like sort of eating ice cream. So to begin with, you eat some ice cream and it tastes really good. And then one day you eat too much ice cream and you realize it doesn't make me feel so good. Now, you might still continue eating too much ice cream every now and again, but you're not going to do it on a regular basis because you know it doesn't make you feel good. So in just the same way, if we become aware of how those behaviors, those tendencies make us feel, then over time, I think that's the way to long-lasting, sort of sustainable change.